Respected elders, educationists, language scholars, dear teachers, and dearest students, welcome. First of all, it is my kind request that those who have been subscribed our channel so far may kindly subscribe it. Dear students, in this class we are going to see English verbs. What is a verb? And what are the various kinds of verbs used in English? And what are their forms? All these things we are going to see in this class. Dear students, verb is the soul of any language. It is verb that expresses the action of that sentence. It is only verb that explains the action of a sentence. So, pay and key attention in observing what is verb and what are their different classes and what are their different forms. All these things you ought to know. Come. Grammar, verbs, definition of verb. What is verb? Then kinds of verbs. All these things we are going to see here. Video 1 to 3. A date 3/5/23. Dear students, let us see English verbs. Definition. What is a verb? What is a verb? That is the first question. Verb is a word or group of words that describes an action, experience or state. What is a verb? A verb is a word, a group of words that describes an action, experience or state. Example: action, study, play, teach. Experience: live, lead, wait. Experience. State: that is being. Is, are, was, were. That is state. So, what is a verb? A verb is a word, a group of words that describes an action, an experience, a state. Okay? Then let us see the second point regarding verbs. On the basis of function, English verbs are divided into two classes known as auxiliary verbs and ordinary verbs. It is, by function, there are two classes of verbs in English. One is known as auxiliary verbs. Its other name, that is subordinate verbs. Auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary means subordinate. Auxiliary verbs, subordinate verbs. Examples: to be, to have, to do, can, could, may, might, must, ought, shall, should, will, would, to need, to dare, and used to. These are auxiliary verbs. See, leaving these verbs, all other verbs are called. Leaving these auxiliary verbs, all other verbs are called ordinary verbs. In English, they are called them as ordinary verbs. That is general verbs. Example: to teach, to learn, to work, etc. So, okay. Let us say again the second point. On the basis of function, English verbs are divided into two classes. One is auxiliary verbs, that is subordinate verb. Another is ordinary verbs. That's all. Now let us see the characteristic qualities of both auxiliary and ordinary verbs. First, let us see the characteristic qualities of the auxiliary verbs. An auxiliary verb cannot act by itself, cannot act independently. It could only help the ordinary verb. An auxiliary verb cannot act independently. It could act only as a helping verb with the ordinary verb. Point 1. Secondly, an auxiliary verb has only two tenses, present tense and past tense. Let us see here. Be. The be verbs and is are. These three are the be verbs. Past was were. Have has had. Can could. May might. Must has no past tense. What also has no past tense. Shall should. Will would. Need no past tense. Dare no past tense. Used to only past tense, no present tense. Thus, the characteristic qualities of the auxiliary verb is an auxiliary verb cannot act independently by itself. It could act only as a helping verb. Secondly, an auxiliary verb has only two tenses, present tense and past tense. Then let us see the characteristic qualities of the ordinary verbs. An ordinary verb could act itself independently. An ordinary verb could act itself independently. An ordinary verb has four tenses: present tense, present participle, past tense and past participle. So, okay, yes sir. Work, working, worked, worked. Present tense, past tense, present tense, present participle, past tense, past participle. Similarly, all these verbs. Thus, again, an ordinary verb, an auxiliary verbs cannot act independently. It could act only as a helping verb with the ordinary verb. It has only two tenses, present tense and past tense. Then regarding ordinary verbs, an ordinary verb could function independently. It has four tenses: present tense, past tense, present tense, present participle, past tense and past participle. Dear students, English ordinary verbs are introduced as infinitives. In English ordinary verbs are introduced as infinitives. What is infinitive? When to is placed before the present ordinary verb, it is called the infinitive. That is, what is infinitive? When to is placed before an ordinary verb, it is called the infinitive. All the English ordinary verbs are introduced as infinitives. That we got to know. Then, yet one more things I have to tell you, dear students. That is, some verbs function both as auxiliary verbs as well as ordinary verbs. Some verbs function auxiliary verbs as well as ordinary verbs. So some of the verbs you got to see: be, have, do, need, dare, and used. So these verbs are used both as auxiliary verbs and ordinary verbs. Thus we have seen 2 points. So what is two factors we have seen. First, definition. What is verb? Then second is what are the kinds of verbs. Now third one, on the basis of forming past tense and past participle, English verbs are divided into two classes known as regular verbs and irregular verbs. These things I have already taught you. Regarding regular verbs and irregular verbs, I have taught you. Yet, as here we are talking about tenses, verbs, I have to talk, here also I have to talk about regular and irregular verbs. Okay? Regular and irregular verbs. On the basis of forming past tense and past participle, verbs are divided into two classes known as regular and irregular verbs. What are regular verbs? Verbs which form their past tense and past participle by the addition of either ed or d are called regular verbs. Verbs which form their past tense and past participle in different ways are called irregular verbs. Okay. Now let us see regular verbs. I already told you. See here. Here these are the regular verbs. Work. We have added ed. Worked. Worked. Here the verb ends in e. Then we have added here d. D. Like, liked, liked. Play, played, played. Study, studied. Stopped, stopped. Here we added ed, here d only, here ed, here y has been removed and ed has been added. Here ap and ed has been added. Recording the rules of forming past tense and past participle, I have already explained to you in the lesson regular verbs and irregular verbs. So regarding the rules for forming present participle, we have already seen the rules in the lesson regular verbs. Formation of present participle, past tense and past participle. We have seen in the lesson. Already we have seen that. Then let us see irregular verbs. What is irregular verbs? Verbs which form their past tense and past participle in different ways. That is without adding ed or d. They form their past tense and past participle in different ways are called irregular verbs. Okay. Here see, am is present tense, past tense was, past participle been, are, were been, come, came, come, go, went, gone, eat, ate, eaten, speak, spoke, spoken, write, wrote, written, kill. See, the past tense and past participle are different. In different ways they are formed. So, regular verbs are one which form their past tense and past participle by the addition of either ed or d. Irregular verb is one which form their past tense and past participle in a different way. Dear students, regarding the Recording and the adding is, we know, in English, when the tense is simple present tense, we have to add yes with the present tense verb. So that is, in simple present tense, when the subject is third person singular, he, she, it, yes should be added with the verb. This is the rule, English rules. That is, in simple present tense, when the subject is he, she, it, third person singular, yes should be added with the verbs. This is the rules. But it has 4 kinds of rules. That is, when the verb ends in WS, you see, WS, SH, CH, ORS, you see, these verbs. We have to add ES with the verbs. You see, kiss, kisses, rush, rushes, she kisses her baby, he rushes to meet his friend, she watches TV, Meena goes to school, he mixes water with milk. So here these verbs have ended in any one of these 5 consonants, and ES has been added. And one B, it is one A. Then in B there are 2 rules. In one B there are 2 rules. In one A, ES is adding ES. In 1B1, when the verb ends in Y, preceded by a vowel, add S only. When the verb ends in Y, preceded by a preceded by vowel, add S only. You see, play. You see, A, E, I, O, U. Vowels. Here it ends in Y, preceded by A, plays. Here preceded by O. Here preceded by U. He plays tennis. Valen toys with an idea of doing something. Vernie buys a book. It's okay. Then 2, under rule 1B2, when the object when the verb ends in Y, preceded by a consonant. If the verb ends in Y, preceded by a consonant, drop the Y and add IES. You see? Cry, Y, consonant. Study, Y, D, consonant. Marry, Y, consonant. The sentence, the child cries. Y has been removed and IES has been added. Kumar studies. Y has been removed and IES has been added. IES have been added. Have been added. Murugan marries. Y has been removed and IES have been added. Murugan marries Valli. Okay. Then rule 2. That is, in rule 1A, adding ES, ending WS, SH, CH, OS. And under rule 1B1, when the verb ends in Y, preceded by a vowel, add S only. 2, under rule B, add when the verb ends in Y, preceded by a consonant, drop the Y and add IES. Then rule 2, we have already seen 3 rules. Under 1A, A and B1, B2, and rule 2. In all other verbs, with all other verbs, add S only. Yes, yes, IES and yes. 4 rules. Okay. Then the fourth point, recording verbs. The classification of verbs. Dear students, one auxiliaries and ordinary verbs. Then regular verbs and irregular verbs. Again here we are going to see two kinds of verbs. Recording, say recording taking the object. Recording taking object. Verbs are, English verbs are divided into two groups. Recording, taking object. Verbs are divided into two classes known as transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. The verbs which take object, the verb which would take object is called transitive verb. The verbs which cannot take object are called intransitive verbs. Okay? See, transitive and intransitive verbs. On the basis of taking object, ordinary verbs are divided into two kinds known as transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Transitive verbs, verbs which can take object are called transitive verbs. I have already explained to you. So, let us see the example. Study, eat, play, teach, etc. These verbs. Here, let us see one word. I study English. Here, English is the object. So, study is transitive verb. Similarly, all these verbs are transitive verbs. She is eating mango. Object mango. Viren has played tennis. Tennis, object. I taught English. English, object. She was learning French. French, object. She had finished cooking. They had finished cooking. Cooking, object. We shall study French. French, object. You will meet me. Me, object. Here, dear students, various tenses I have shown you. That's all. Various kinds of sentence, various kinds of tenses I have shown here in all these examples. So, the verb which would take object is called a transitive verb. I have shown you here the examples. And verbs which cannot take object are called intransitive verbs. That I have taught you. So let us see here. I am a teacher. Here a teacher is a complement. These verbs, be verbs, and some other verbs recording am, fly, go, walk, sleep, come, etc. These kinds of verbs, such kind of verbs cannot take objects. These verbs are called intransitive verbs. You see, I am a teacher. She is sleeping now. The bird has flown out of the cage. I ran with the bare foot. It was raining all the day. They walked 10 kilometers. We shall come tomorrow. They will go next week. Here are all this. So, the verbs which cannot take object are called intransitive verbs. Dear students, so what are the ways to find out whether a verb is a transitive verb or intransitive verb? That I have already explained to you in, sentence pattern. I have already explained to you in sentence patterns whether a verb is a transitive or intransitive verbs. Here again I explain you. See, to find out whether a verb is a transitive or intransitive verb, we have to put two questions: whom or what. If there is answer for any one of the two questions, that is a transitive verb. If there is no answer for any one of the two questions, it is an intransitive verb. That's all. See, here, I study English. Here the verb is study. Now let us put that the two questions. Whom do you? I study English. It's okay. What do I study? No answer. So I or you can put any subject you can put. What do I study? No answer. I mean, whom do I study? No answer. What do I study? Here is an answer English. So there is no answer for the question whom, but there is an answer for the question what. So study is a transitive verb. To find out whether a verb is a transitive verb or a verb or intransitive verb, you have to put two questions, whom or what. If there is an answer for any one of the two questions, that is a transitive verb. Here I study English. What do I study? Here is the answer English. So so study is a transitive verb. See, here let us see another sentence. I walk 1 kilometer. That is, I walk 1 kilometer daily. Here, the first question: whom do I walk? So we can use either I or you. We can use any subject. That doesn't matter. Whom do I walk? Or what do I walk? Whom do I walk or what do I walk? There is no answer. Both these questions are absurd. And also there is no answer for it. So, the verb walk is a intransitive verb. So, walk is an intransitive verb. Okay? Dear students, thus we have seen an interesting chapter, verb. What is verb? First definition. What is verb? Question 1. Then kinds of verbs and the basis of function. Then kinds of verb and the formation of past tense and past participle. Fourth one, kinds of verbs and the basis of taking object or not. Thus, 1 is definition. Then the 3 is kinds of verbs on the basis of function. Then kinds of verbs on the basis of forming tenses, past tense and past participle. And kinds of verbs on the basis of taking object or not. Very, very, very important. All these things you should store in your memory. Then only you can take them from memory when you speak and write. But for speaking it is very, very important. Say even for writing you can slowly think and write. But when speak, the calculator should be ready. The mind should be ready to offer the act word, act verb. So, okay. What's the first? What is an object? What is a verb? A word or group of word that defines the action that expresses, that describes a word or group of words that describes or expresses an action, experience, state is a verb. That's all. Then on the basis of function, verbs are divided into two groups known as auxiliary verbs and ordinary verbs. Characteristic qualities of these two kinds of verbs. An auxiliary verbs cannot act independently. It can act only as a helping verb. That's all. Then it has only, an auxiliary verb has only two forms, present tense and past tense. That's all. Auxiliary verb is over. Then recording, ordinary verbs. An ordinary verb could act independently. An ordinary verb has four tenses: present tense, present participle, past tense, and past participle. These are the characteristic qualities of both auxiliaries and ordinary verbs. Dear students, some verbs are used both as auxiliaries and ordinary verbs. Examples: be, do, have, need, dare. These verbs are used both as auxiliary verbs and ordinary verbs. Okay. Then come, let us see. On the basis of forming past tense and past participle, verbs are divided into two groups known as regular verbs and irregular verbs. Verbs which form their past tense and past participle, yes, in the previous ones, recording. It's okay. Past tense verbs which form their past tense and past participle by the addition of either ed or d are called regular verbs. Verbs which form their past tense and past participle by different ways are called irregular verbs. Okay. Then, dear students, recording, adding yes or es with the verbs, with the present tense, with the verbs in the simple present tense of the third person singulars. That is, in simple present tense, they have placed a rule. In simple present tense, when the subject is singular, third person singular, in simple present tense, when the subject is a third person singular, either yes or es should be added with the present tense verb. It is the rule they have framed. According to the rules, there are four rules. See, one, when the verb ends in ws, sh, o, is, ws, sh, o, and x, add es. When a verb ends in ws or sh or ch, o or x, add es. This is rule 1. Then rule 2. When the verb ends in y preceded by a vowel. If a verb ends in y preceded by a vowel, add s only. It is rule 2. If a verb ends in y and preceded by a vowel, then add s only. Rule 2. Then, if a verb ends in y and preceded by a consonant, drop the y and add ies. It is rule 3. Okay. Rule 4. In all other verbs, add simply s. This is the rules for adding s or es with the present tense verb. Again, in simple present tense, when the subject is third person singular, yes or es should be added with the verbs. It is 4 rules. When ends ws, sh, ch, o or x, add es. When ends in y preceded by a vowel, add simply s without removing y. When ends in y preceded by a consonant, drop the y and add ies. In all other cases, all other verbs, add simply s. That's all. Thus, we have seen 2 classes of verbs. Second, kinds of verbs, regular and irregular verbs. Then, on the basis of taking object, verbs are divided into two classes, known as transitive and intransitive verbs. If a verb is capable of taking a verb, taking an object, it is called transitive verb. If the verb is not capable of taking object, it is called intransitive verbs. That's all. To find out whether a verb is a transitive or intransitive, we got to do two questions. Whom or what? If there is an answer for any one of the two questions, whom or what, that is a transitive verb. If there is no answer for any one of the two questions, that is an intransitive verb. So that's all. That is, dear students, it is very, very important. So, see, auxiliary verbs, ordinary verbs, regular verbs, irregular verbs, transitive verbs, intransitive verbs. See, within the verbs, they have classified us. So it is a part, because it is a foreign language. As far as foreigners are concerned, English is a foreign language. But now it is the world language. So we ought to know all the factors, recording the grammatical factors used in English. The grammatical rules used in English, we got to follow that. So bear it in mind. Auxiliaries and ordinary verbs, regular and irregular verbs, and transitive and intransitive verbs. Be clear. Have a clear picture of these three kinds of verbs. Dear students and elders, I thank you very much for listening to my class keenly and interestingly. You will be gaining so many things. In the next class, we are going to see very important things, that is active and passive voices. We have already seen tenses. Only from the tenses we are going to see active and passive voices. In the next class, we are going to see these things. So, dear students, I wish all of you a very nice and sweet time till I meet you in the next class. Thank you.